What's up, humans? I finally defeated the Elder Torah that was the embodiment of all homophobia in the form of a closet in a war. However, sadly, Greenland got destroyed in this process, but don't worry, I fixed it with flex tape, so everything is fine. And now I can finally talk about Charles Pinckney. As you can see, I have taken rather extensive notes on the subject. He was born on October 26th, 1757, and died on October 29th, 29th, 1824. I would tell you his age, but I'm too lazy to actually do the math. You know, a common thing for a person who researches politics and history. He was in the political party he was a part of was the Federalists, and he attended the First Continental Congress, no, the Second Continental Congress, and was also at the Constitutional Convention. He represented the state of South Carolina, and this is gonna blow your mind. That was because he lived there. His mother is Frances Bruton, and his father was Charles Pinckney. Yes, Charles Pinckney's father was also named Charles Pinckney, and I do not like that. I had to carefully make sure I was researching the correct Charles Pinckney. Luckily, I was, so we should all be completely fine. Honestly, I hope Charles Pinckney wasn't the father of a guy named Charles Pinckney, because otherwise they really just need to get better at naming. Anyways, his wife was Mary Lawrence. That's nothing to really. I don't have a comment on that. I just wrote that down because it's information that you need to know about Charles Pinckney. He submitted a draft for the Constitution called the Pinckney Plan. This plan ended up serving as one of the many bases for the Constitution, obviously because it was a draft, but like this was one of the important ones, I think. That's what it said in the article, at least. As a result, he is one of the many framers of the Constitution, and he was a failure at becoming the President of the United States. First running against Thomas Jefferson and John Adams. He lost, and Thomas Jefferson became president. Then he ran against Thomas Jefferson and John Adams. He lost, and Thomas Jefferson became president. Then he ran against James Madison. He lost, and James Madison became president. So he tried. But don't think that this doesn't mean that he was terrible at political careerness, because he actually was kind of alright, considering the fact that he was managed to become a legislator. He was in the legislative branch. He was a congressman. I believe. According to my notes, he was in the Senate. Yeah. Yeah, guess what state he represented? That's right, South Carolina. The state that, if it secedes from the Union, will cause a civil war. However, that's 20 years away from when he dies. So, you may know, if you know anything about history, you might have noticed that he's from South Carolina in the late 1700s to early 1800s. What this means is he sadly, horribly, very, very bad thing, he owned slaves. And there's no way to dance around this because it's very important to mention this about any historical figure who participated in the horrible practice of slavery. It is terrible, it sucks, but it's very important that we bring this up so that you can get the full picture of historical figures. I want to talk about Charles Pinckney because he has a funny name, and I felt like it's fun to talk about lesser known historical figures. And, yeah. Now, I already knew he was from the South, so I already knew this is not good person, probably. And, yep. Charles Pinckney, the guy who was Charles Pinckneying it up, terrible person somewhat because of this, and by somewhat I mean like just a genuine terrible person. And again, it's very important to bring up when a figure is controversial like this, because history is about teaching us the lessons of the past. So while this guy did work hard in the Revolutionary War and stuff to help protect freedom and create the country known as the United States of America, never heard of that one in any way, shape, or form. He did, however, own slaves, and this was sadly a common practice at the time. Yeah, Charles Pinckney. Till next time, humans.